The film opens in 1962 in New York City, showing the Copa, the most elite club in the city, which was exclusive to white people. This is the period when racial discrimination is at its peak in America. Tony, an Italian-American, works as a security guard and the owner's driver at the club. He excels in his role, adeptly handling any situation, and is also renowned for his combative nature. After a while, he notices Gio, the city's mafia boss, approaching the club. Gio hands his prized hat to the receptionist, tipping her and menacingly instructing her to keep it safe, emphasizing that it was a gift from his mother. Tony gets a mischievous idea and steals the hat by bribing the receptionist. Upon discovering this shortly afterward, Gio creates a ruckus in the club, threatening and abusing the owner, ultimately leading to the club being closed forever. After some time, Tony returns the hat to Gio, who is thrilled to have it back. Tony recounts retrieving it from the thief after encountering numerous risks. In gratitude, Gio gives him a generous tip, unaware that Tony's true motive is to impress him and secure a position within his gang. At dawn, he returns home, softly caresses his sleeping children, and then joins his wife Dolores in bed. When he wakes up, he discovers his close relatives gathered at home to watch a baseball game. In the kitchen, Dolores has arranged for two black men to perform plumbing work. After they complete the job, she courteously offers them refreshments, which disgusts Tony, as he shares the common American prejudice against black people. After they leave, he disdainfully discards the glasses in the dustbin. Dolores is dismayed to see the glasses in the dustbin and retrieves them. In the afternoon, he comes back home after winning $50 in a bet with a friend during a food challenge in a restaurant. However, his initial intention was to seek employment there, and he is still unemployed. Dolores then reminds him about the rent they need to pay next Monday. Just then, he receives a call from his boss about a wealthy man named Shirley needing a driver urgently. His boss offers to arrange a meeting if he's interested. Without hesitation, he agrees and arrives at the provided address the following morning. Inside, he discovers that many others like him are already waiting for their interviews to secure the job. Shirley's assistant instructs him to fill out a form and wait for his turn. After a while, his turn arrives, and he is called into Shirley's room. Just as he is admiring the luxurious interior, Shirley arrives. Tony is taken aback because Shirley is a black guy, and at that time in America, it was uncommon to see a black man wealthy and employing white people. Despite this, Tony is impressed by Shirley's impeccable styling sense. After a brief conversation, Tony provides Shirley with a detailed account of his experiences, previous employment, and other skills. Skeptically, Shirley asks if Tony has any issues working for a black man. Tony affirms his support for diversity and equality. Shirley then informs Tony that he is a pianist in need of a chauffeur for an upcoming 8-week tour through the Deep South. He offers $100 per week, along with accommodation and meals, but warns Tony that the tour schedule will prevent him from celebrating Christmas with his family. Tony agrees, finding the pay generous. Shirley adds that he needs not just a driver, but also someone to clean his shoes, iron his clothes, and serve as his personal assistant. Upon hearing this, Tony stands up to leave the interview. Shirley stops him, expressing his enthusiasm for Tony's capabilities and urging him to accept the job. Tony states his conditions before leaving. He agrees to strictly and flawlessly fulfill his role of chauffeuring to all concerts on time, but firmly declines to take on any additional duties. Afterward, he visits several old acquaintances to inquire about job opportunities, but everywhere he goes, his combative behavior leads to rejection. Exhausted and desperate for money, he pawns his watch. Upon reaching home, he shares with Dolores the details of his interview experience, including his reasons for not accepting the job. Early the next morning, Tony receives a call from Shirley asking to speak to his wife, prompting Dolores to reluctantly speak to him. Shirley informs Dolores that he has agreed to all of Tony's terms and conditions, and also increase in salary to $125 per week, and requests Dolores' permission to take Tony with him for the next 2 months as part of the job arrangement. She agrees to this even though she is reluctant. The next day, Shirley's managers provide Tony with comprehensive information about the concert venues and job responsibilities along with the car. Additionally, they give him the Green Book, a guide listing addresses of motels and restaurants that allowed blacks to stay. Tony bids farewell to his children and wife before leaving to pick up Shirley. When Tony arrives, Shirley gets into the car. Tony's assistant signals for him to load the luggage, but it's clear that Tony is adamant about not doing any work beyond his assigned duties. Afterward, they embarked on their journey, with managers following in another car. During the drive, Shirley reminded Tony of their contract requirement that Tony must inspect the piano at each concert venue to ensure it is a Steinway brand. Tony asked Shirley if they could leave for New York immediately after their final concert on December 23rd, so he could spend Christmas with his family. Shirley agreed to consider it. Shirley instructs their manager to arrive ahead of them, arrange hotel reservations, and ensure all their room needs are met as per their itinerary. Throughout the trip, Shirley was continually irritated by Tony's bad habits, like eating while driving and smoking cigarettes. Tony agreed to change, but his stubbornness often led him back to his usual behavior, which displays his stubbornness. Tony's incessant chatter during the journey further aggravated Shirley. Despite repeated requests for quiet, Tony's nonstop talking only intensified Shirley's headache. After traveling for a while, they take a break and stop at a restaurant for lunch. Inside, they engage in a brief conversation about the food and surroundings while having lunch. Afterward, they depart for the renowned Hotel Pennsylvania in Pittsburgh. In the evening, they arrive at their destination and Shirley prepares for his night performance. Before heading to the performance, he cautions Tony that the audience will include affluent and educated individuals and advises him to avoid any misbehavior and to refrain from using colloquial or informal language in their presence. Also, he tries to convince Tony to change his last name, explaining that an Italian name will likely be mispronounced at any concert he attends. Despite Shirley's advice, Tony refuses to change his name and declares that if that's the case, he will wait outside instead of going inside. Although Shirley wanted to take him inside to ensure he didn't feel disrespected. In the next scene, a lady introduces Shirley to all her guests. Meanwhile, Tony waits outside with the other drivers. As soon as Shirley begins playing the piano, his agile fingers mesmerize everyone, transforming the atmosphere into one of sheer joy and infectious pieces. The guests are captivated and drawn into the rhythm of the music. Hearing the melodious piano tune, Tony can't resist and watch Shirley's performance from outside. He was amazed because it was the first time he had seen someone play the piano so beautifully. When Shirley emerges after the concert, he finds Tony gambling with the other drivers and winning money. Concerned, Shirley takes Tony aside and earnestly explains the dangers of gambling. He assures Tony that if he ever needs money beyond his job, he can ask Shirley without hesitation, but urges him never to resort to gambling. Out of respect for Tony, Shirley insists that he accompany him inside for the next time. Seeing the respect in Shirley's eyes towards himself, Tony's attitude towards black people undergoes a positive change. After which they spend the night in Pennsylvania and leave for another performance the next morning. As they stop near a grocery store to pick up some food items, Tony spots a stone stall and impulsively takes a stone lying on the ground. Shirley's assistant notices and reports it to Shirley. Shirley insists that Tony put the stone back, explaining that taking it is stealing and unethical. Reluctantly, despite his initial reluctance, Tony agrees and returns the stone to its original place. With the issue resolved, they continue on to their next destination. At the concert area, Tony goes to check the arrangements and discovers trash and dust on the piano. When he asks the piano keeper to clean it up, the keeper refuses, stating he doesn't work for black people and implies they deserve to work in filth. Seeing the keeper's racist attitude towards black people, Tony becomes furious and delivers a resounding slap to the keeper. Immediately following that incident, the scene shifts to Shirley delivering another captivating performance. Notably, Tony also stands among them, fully immersed and enjoying the spectacle. The film then portrays a series of scenes depicting their performances at various concerts. In the midst of this, during a lunch, Shirley notices Tony writing a letter to his wife, but spots several mistakes in it. One day, on the way to Shirley's next concert, Tony buys fried chicken from a roadside KFC and starts eating it in the car. Shirley tells him to stop and declines Tony's offer to share, explaining he can't eat without proper cutlery. However, Tony's persistent insistence, akin to that of a friend, eventually convinces Shirley to join in eating with his hands. Initially feeling a bit awkward eating with his hands, Shirley soon finds himself enjoying the experience. This shared moment fosters a strong bond between them as they laugh together, share stories, and genuinely revel in each other's company, forging a deeper connection. Dolores receives a letter from Tony. He assures her of his safety, praises Shirley, and mentions his changed attitude towards blacks. However, it lacks the romance Dolores desires. After the concert ends, they arrive at a motel in the evening. While not as luxurious as Shirley expected, but proves to be a comfortable place to spend the night. Tony is relaxing in his room when Shirley's assistant urgently knocks, informing him that Shirley, completely intoxicated, mistakenly entered a club that doesn't allow blacks. Upon arriving at the club, Tony is shocked to see a group of goons beating Shirley severely. Fueled by anger and concern, Tony confronts them with a firm demand to release Shirley immediately. One of the men tries to intimidate Tony by revealing a knife, but Tony responds by subtly gesturing as if he has a gun and threatening to shoot the goons if they don't release Shirley. Sensing escalating tension, the club owner intervenes by pulling out his shotgun, instructing the goons to back down and release Shirley to defuse the situation. After leaving the club, Tony sternly reprimands Shirley, emphasizing that for his own safety, he should never go anywhere alone. In his drunken state, Shirley asks Tony about his gun. Tony admits he doesn't actually have a gun, but lied to intimidate the goons. The next day, they leave for another concert, but their car overheats on the way. As Tony tries to fix it, some black workers in the fields notice and stare at them. Back then, it was a rare sight to see a white person working for a black person, which made heads turn. Upon arriving at the venue, Shirley and Tony receive a warm welcome from the organizers, introduce them respectfully. However, Shirley's concerns come to fruition when the organizer mispronounces Tony's name. As night falls, Tony's performance begins, captivating everyone with his talent once again. During the intermission, Shirley heads to the washroom but is stopped by a butler who insists it's reserved for white people only. He directs Shirley to a run-down wooden washroom outside. Seeing this discrimination, Shirley is displeased. After the performance concludes, everyone shakes hands with Shirley and bids him farewell. Observing from a distance, Tony quietly labels them hypocrites for thanking Shirley with handshakes after refusing him the washroom. Tony threatens to urinate in their garden, but the manager warns this could lead to Shirley firing him and urges Tony not to cause any trouble with many concerts still ahead. The next day, Shirley finds Tony writing another letter to his wife, struggling with numerous mistakes. Shirley graciously offers his help and coaches Tony through the writing process. Following Shirley's guidance meticulously, Tony crafts a profoundly romantic letter that deeply resonates with Dolores this time. In the evening, they go to a clothing store to find a suit for Shirley's upcoming performance. However, the shopkeeper refuses to serve Shirley because of his race, leading Tony to express his displeasure before leaving the store. Later that night, Tony gets a call from the police, informing him that Shirley has been arrested. When Tony arrives at the station, he finds Shirley and a boy, both in a state of undressed. The police officer informs Tony that both were found alone in the hotel room, engaged in private activities. Tony tries to manage the situation discreetly, offering a bribe to persuade the officers to release Shirley and prevent the news from spreading. After leaving the police station, Shirley expresses his disapproval of Tony's decision to bribe the authorities for his release, emphasizing that it contradicts his principles. Tony is surprised that despite preventing their private matter from becoming public, Shirley is now criticizing his actions. The next day, they arrive at a hotel for a concert where Tony encounters some of his old friends at the entrance. Disapproving of him working for a black man, they offer him a job and double his pay on the spot. Tony politely declines their offer for now, explaining that he's on duty at the moment. He suggests discussing the matter later, prompting them to arrange a nighttime meeting with Tony. At night, as Tony heads out to meet his friends, Shirley intercepts him, worried he might quit. Shirley immediately offers Tony the desired position and salary, expressing his hope for Tony to stay indefinitely. Tony reassures him, saying he won't leave as long as their agreement stands. Shirley apologizes for his yesterday's behavior. In response, advises him not to dwell on it too much. In the next scene, Tony and Shirley engage in a conversation. Tony gently asks Shirley how he copes with discrimination due to his race. Shirley responds by sharing a personal story from his past, revealing that he has grown accustomed to such treatment over time. Tony expresses sympathy for Shirley, affirming he will always be there for him as a friend and ready to help whenever he needs it. After this, their bond deepens significantly as friends. Shirley often helps Tony craft heartfelt, romantic letters. These letters deeply touch Dolores, and her friends admire Tony's ability to express such genuine emotion. While heading to a concert in heavy rain, Tony and Shirley lose their way. Shortly thereafter, two police officers stop them for a routine check, examining Tony's license and the car papers. Both policemen notice Shirley and are puzzled, wondering why a white man is driving for a black man. They forcibly remove Shirley from the car, prompting Tony to assert that Shirley is his boss. In response, one of the policemen expresses his hatred towards black people and uses extremely abusive language towards Shirley and blacks in general. Also, they derogatorily calls Tony a half-nigger. Enraged by this, Tony punches the policeman. While in lockup, Shirley repeatedly demands to call his lawyer. When he firmly insists that it is his legal right, the police finally allow him to make the call. Then, Shirley scolds Tony for his outburst, telling him that because of his anger, Shirley ended up in jail for the first time in his life. He also teaches him that victory can never be achieved through violence, but can be won through dignity. Then, the police personnel receive a call from the governor who orders them to safely release Shirley. Tony is shocked to see Shirley's influence, as he has access to the governor. As they return to the hotel, Tony's happiness is evident, but Shirley scolds him again for his mistake. He blames Tony for missing the concert and expresses disappointment, mentioning that because of Tony's actions, he had to humble himself and seek help from someone else for the first time. Shirley confronts Tony, acknowledging that he punched the cop because the officer used a derogatory term, calling Tony a half-Negro. Tony feels hurt that Shirley sees him as just another white person. He tells Shirley that his life has been more challenging than Blake's. They argue intensely over this, and in the heat of the moment, Shirley exits the car and begins to walk away. Tony stops him, and in a heartfelt exchange, Shirley opens up about the profound hardships and loneliness he's endured, experiences that Tony can't fully grasp or relate to in his own life. The next morning, they arrive in Birmingham for the last Christmas concert. Shirley encounters discrimination as organizers allocate him a small storage room for dressing. Despite this, Shirley remains calm. During a dinner with Tony and the managers, one of them shares that Shirley performs not just for money, but also to improve how the white community perceives black people. As Shirley approaches the dining area, the receptionists block his path. Witnessing this, Tony steps in to confront them. The organizers explain to Tony and Shirley that it's an old traditional rule of the hotel that prohibits blacks from entering the dining area. They express their inability to change it. The organizers humbly request Shirley to arrange to dine outside in the garden instead. Upon this, Shirley proposes two options to the organizer: either he will dine in the restaurant, or he will not perform today. Upon this, the organizer takes Tony aside to discuss the matter privately. Despite Tony's repeated appeals, the organizer remains unmoved, influenced by a mistaken belief that Tony shares the prejudices against blacks. In a desperate attempt to sway Tony, the organizer resorts to bribery and uses derogatory language against Shirley and his community. Enraged, Tony is on the verge of attacking him when Shirley intervenes and prevents him from doing so. Sensing the tension rising, Shirley, trusting Tony as a close friend, appeals to him to make a decision. Tony expresses his intolerance for Shirley's disrespect. In response, Shirley decides to cancel the concert and leaves from there. Later, they visit an exclusive club for blacks, where Tony's association with Shirley surprises everyone. As they enjoy fried chicken, the bartender admires their fine clothes and asks about their background. Tony proudly reveals that Shirley is the city's top pianist. Intrigued, the bartender challenges Shirley to play the piano, and after Tony insists, Shirley agrees to showcase his talent. He enhances the club's atmosphere with his mesmerizing performance, thoroughly enjoying himself also in the process. Exiting the club, they discover some individuals attempting to steal from their car. Tony reacts swiftly, drawing his gun and firing a warning shot, causing the thieves to flee. Shirley is taken aback upon discovering that Tony is actually armed with a gun. Upon Shirley's insistence, they depart for New York so Tony can spend Christmas with his family. However, halfway into their journey, they encounter significant difficulties as Tony struggles to navigate through heavy snowfall. Despite the challenging conditions, they press on with their journey. Alerted by a passing policeman, Tony changes the tire of the car. After completing the task, they wish the policeman a Merry Christmas before resuming their journey. In the next scene, Shirley takes over driving as Tony is exhausted and falls asleep. After a short journey, they arrive at Tony's house. Tony expresses heartfelt thanks to Shirley for safely bringing him home on time. He warmly invites Shirley to join his family's Christmas celebration. However, Shirley hesitates, inner concern that Tony's family may not accept him. He, politely declining the invitation, bids Tony Merry Christmas and heads towards home. Tony's expression made it clear that this trip would be unforgettable for him and that he would deeply miss Shirley. Tony enters his house to find it adorned with festive Christmas decorations, and his relatives gather joyfully. His family warmly welcomes him with happiness and excitement upon his return. Meanwhile, Shirley finds himself alone, with no one to celebrate Christmas with, deeply missing Tony's presence and companionship. After some time, there's a knock on Tony's door. Tony opens it to find Shirley standing there with a beer bottle, eager to celebrate Christmas with Tony and his family. Overjoyed, Tony hugs him tightly for a few seconds. Inside, he introduces him to his family. At first, there is a moment of quiet surprise among Tony's relatives upon seeing Tony and Shirley together, but they quickly adjust and respectfully welcome Shirley into their midst. Shirley encounters Dolores, who instantly recognizes him. Overcome with gratitude, hugs him for helping Tony with his letters. Dolores warmly thanks Shirley and embraces him as part of her family. The film concludes with this heartfelt moment of acceptance and unity. The film then features the story's real characters. This film is based on the true-life experiences of Dr. Donald Shirley and Tony Lip Vallelonga. Notably, Vallelonga was the surname of Tony, which was mispronounced by the organizer. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe and turn on all notifications to stay updated with our latest content. Additionally, if you'd like to see amazing Indian movie explanations, give this video a thumbs up and type yes in the comments.